It's simple, really. Great stories with a good cup of tea. It's the Tea with Mike show. On this episode of the Tea with Mike show, we're diving into cybersecurity and sustainability with Waylon Hogwood. Come join us, learn some new fact things, and enjoy a good cup of tea. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Tea with Mike show. Today we're going to be diving deep into cybersecurity and a lot of other interesting topics that I don't know much about, but that's the whole purpose of the show. So please welcome to the Tea with Mike show, Waylon. How's it going, man?
It's going good. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Awesome. No worries. Excited, as I just said, super excited to learn some new things today. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
So let's start nice and easy. Like, where do you call home, and where did you grow up?
Yeah, always, so many people answer that question so differently. But right now I live in Colorado, and where I live is what I call home. I have an apartment here while I attend school, but I grew up in kind of southern Colorado near the sand dunes with my family. They raised me off grid in these mountains there for a while. But I eventually left to study at university, and now where I am now is home to me.
Awesome, man. What were some of your favorite hobbies as a child?
Oh man, I really loved playing chess with my dad in the morning. I've always been like an early riser, and so I'd wake up early, and it was so exciting because he would let me have coffee occasionally. You know, when you're a little kid and your parents give you coffee, it's pretty exciting.
Hyper and like, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, and we played a lot of chess in the mornings and like watched the sunrise while we played chess, and pretty memorable.
And what do you cherish the most about that particular, like, I guess, memory, like with your dad? How did it help build a relationship between the two of you?
Yeah, I think, it was wonderful. I think there was a lot of learning, and kind of like a really, really wonderful dynamic, because at first I didn't know how to play chess at all, but then I got good enough, or I would like beat him every now and then. And it was really cool to be supported in that learning environment with like a father figure, but also, kind of work up to garnering that respect where you're no longer just like a kid and like people go easy on you,
You're playing the same level, if not better, than your opponent.
Yeah, that was a super exciting and motivating factor for me as a young child.
Nice, man. Like, any other hobbies, like kicking around? Anything computer related or science related?
From my early childhood, not a ton. We actually grew up off grid, so we had very little interaction with, computers and stuff like that. My father was a big solar and hot water heating systems guy, so kind of more of like hardware and industrial controls and stuff like that. But I never got into computers until I left to go to boarding school. Was probably my first, big thing. And then I got into playing video games. And I mean, even my first bachelor's was not computer science. So it took me a while to make the full circle into the computer science.
Nice, man. And so, okay, so off-grid, living in Colorado, what early riser, playing chess with your dad sounds really cool, really great. So what was school like? Did you have any like favorite subjects?
School was absolutely so small. So talk about small schools. Everybody's like, oh yeah, my school had like a couple thousand kids, pretty small. My whole class, I was only four kids in my whole class. I think K through 12th, there was 84 students.
Whoa.
And so it's really, really small. And, there are good things about that. And there are also challenging things, like if you don't get along with somebody, it can challenging because you have to stay with them and work it out and make up and become friends again, but also super valuable, interpersonal skills. And I think the relationship that I had with my classmates that was built over those challenging times was really valuable. I did love mathematics in grade school. Before I went to boarding school, was one of my favorite topics. And yeah, it's kind of how the school was. It was very small, very, very intimate environments. We would go skiing a lot. But yeah.
Awesome. And then, so what was graduation like? How many? Because you said you were in a class of like 4 people, right?
Well, I went to a boarding school,
okay.
So I did like K through like 8th at this. It was called the Crestern Charter School. It was really small, and then I went to a boarding school for high school, and it was a little bit bigger. And it was out in Carbondale, Colorado, which is kind of in between Aspen and Glenwood.
And what was that transition like for you, going from this like small town vibe where you probably knew everyone from the teacher to the janitor? Like, what was that transition like?
It was really exciting, honestly. I was very excited to, meet a whole bunch of new people. And I was quite fortunate. I really loved the high school I went to, and I think they really provided a wonderful education and a lot of interpersonal skills about like community and like what are your values, and we talked about hard questions and had wonderful team building. And yeah, it was bigger, but I think still my class only had like 20 something kids, so it was still fairly small, but to me it was the biggest school I'd ever been to, so I thought it was big.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think your childhood, which is not as common, let's say, not unusual, but not as common as path, do you think that like smaller setting where you could learn some of these, like refine some of these key skills like the interpersonal school skills, as you mentioned, with arguing with people like in your class, do you think that set you up well for that like next step?
Yeah, I think I do. I have a lot of gratitude for the kind of, semi-alternative childhood I had, and I always, credit a lot of that to developing like mindfulness, because when you're living kind of in the middle of nowhere, there's a lot less distraction going on. So you have like a lot more time to like reflect on like the decisions you make and the hard decisions and who you are and what you want to do and who do you want to be. And those are not always easy things to reflect about, and oftentimes they're challenging, and we try to find distractions and avoid answering those questions. But I think they're probably some of the things that I'm the most grateful for, coming from that alternative, upbringing.
Awesome, man. And then so obviously, like well, obviously I know you obviously graduated, and then what was that moment when you decided that you wanted to major in mathematics?
Yeah, it took me actually a little while for me to decide what I wanted to study. Yeah, so I finished boarding school and I decided to go to university here in Colorado, study at Colorado State. And I think I was originally planning to study like biochemical engineering, something crazy. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me. This is a little insane. And it uses some of the skills that I enjoy, but, it's a lot of a commitment to just go full force into that. And I had switched around a little bit before I settled on mathematics. I was originally biochemical engineering, and then I switched to business, and then I actually switched to fashion design for a brief moment, and then settled on mathematics after I had taken like one of the business calculus courses. And it just reminded me, like how I mentioned, I loved mathematics in grade school. I was super nostalgic, and I've always been very curious on like the nature of reality, and it's all super subjective a lot of the time, and hard to find like really solid uh, material to contemplate and think about. And mathematics was really solid and had a clean set of rules, and I was like, this is a really nice way to kind of describe the world in terms of mathematics. It's solid. It's not incredibly abstract. Not that there aren't abstract parts about mathematics, but that's kind of my original draw to mathematics there.
And okay, and then what was the kind of the moment when you transitioned? So did you finish that major?
Yeah, so I finished my Bachelor of Science in mathematics, and
Right.
now I'm in grad school studying computer science.
Perfect. And so why did you decide to like take a step and maybe going out like right away and finding a job?
Yeah, great questions. And I think in my undergraduate studies, when I was studying mathematics, I never thought about how I would want this to be a career for myself. I was like, I'm studying mathematics because I like it, not because I want a specific job. And so by the time it came around, I graduated. I was working as a cybersecurity intern for the academic computing and networking services at my university. And so we were doing cybersecurity initiatives for them, and I really enjoyed it. And fortunately for me, mathematics plays a big role in encryption, which is a pretty fundamental and important piece of cybersecurity. And so I graduated and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like as a mathematician, they say you either teach or you like do insurance, and theoretical mathematicians do nothing but math theory, And so there's all these jokes about these math careers. And I was working in cybersecurity, and I was like, you know what? In addition to apply to a couple jobs, I'm going to also apply to grad school in computer science because I've been really enjoying my internship. And to be quite honest, I owe that internship a lot for where I am right now. I was working under the chief information security officer for the university, and he wrote me a great letter of recommendation, and I didn't even expect to get in because my application was kind of last minute, and then it happened, and here we are.
Nice. Can you maybe expand a little bit on what you do in your job in the academic? You still work in the academic computing and networking thing, don't you?
Well, I was working there actually until just the beginning of this academic semester. I accepted a new job. And the new job I accepted is it's an assistantship, so I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity. But the university sponsored my tuition for this job, so this job is now I work as a system administrator and a teaching assistant. So I help teach one of the computer science security courses.
Oh, cool.
And then I help the system administrators manage the computer science networks.
At the university?
Yeah, at the university.
So it's a different role within the same university?
Yeah, same university,
Yeah.
different department.
Awesome. And so what's the most challenging part of your new role?
Oh man. Yeah, so my new role is half teaching assistant and half system administration.
Yeah.
And I like the system administration more because I get to learn so much, and you have a lot of responsibility as a system administrator. With the wrong keystrokes, you can destroy the entire network. And then I dislike the teaching assistant one, not because I dislike teaching, but because as a teaching assistant, you do a lot of the grunt work. So a lot of what I do as a teaching assistant is grading assignments,
Yeah.
you know, and it's more busy work than it is super engaging. There are some engaging parts. I do really like, talking with the students in that class and answering their questions. It's pretty fulfilling. But I'd say, doing the busy work is the most tedious and challenging part of my appointment because it's the most monotonous.
Awesome, and then and but you just like obviously prefer that the more hands-on, the self-learning things that are like helping you develop your like knowledge base, right?
Yeah, definitely, and that's all in the system administration. I also have some wonderful bosses and coworkers in the system administration department, and I learned so much from them, and they're so smart, and I'm grateful to be working with them.
Awesome. And so far, what would you say is the number one thing you've learned from your coworkers and colleagues?
I think a lot of I'd say it's an interpersonal skill, and it's a collaborative environment. Oftentimes at a new position, it can be intimidating if you don't know how to do something.
Yes.
But they've been incredibly open about encouraging me to ask questions. And I think that's really taught me a lot about constructive working environments. And they've been really supportive and they really patient. And it makes me want to, exhibit those similar interpersonal skills in my life. And has been, because, you can learn technical things like mathematics or system administration, but a lot of it is kind of like memorization or mnemonics and stuff. Like, what does this command do on this system? And you can all learn those and memorize all of them and be a great system administrator. You can also have a good learning environment and a bad learning environment.
Yeah.
And the support of a good learning environment has been probably the most valuable there.
Awesome. And then so has your personality like always been like have you always been quite good at like interpersonal skills and like creating like conversations and working into like team-like environments, or is that something that has developed over time from when you like back from when you were a child and when you were in school?
Yeah, I think it's always been really natural to me, and I think part of it is, that curiosity of like meeting new people, and growing up off grid, is so isolated, and so I'm super excited to meet new people whenever I've met them. And so I think that,
yes.
Yeah, are you okay? Don't die over there.
I'm doing all right. Carry on, sorry. That was rude.
No worries. But I think in the beginning of my, academic career, it was a lot more playful. And, I was just having fun meeting people and hanging out with people. And it was so exciting to me, being at a university. It was the biggest place I had ever lived. But I think towards the end of my degree and my transition, I started to value like my social interactions a little bit less and discipline a little bit more. And, I come to realize I was like, oh yeah, like grad school is really hard, I have to, really want this and really work really hard. And I was reflecting on my goals and my aspirations, and not only what they are, but that in order to achieve them, I have to work really hard, like hard work is fulfilling, and it's difficult to be consistent and disciplined. But it's because those things are difficult that make them valuable. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So I'd say my values started really playful and exciting and kind of tended toward being more disciplined and trying to be more focused on my goals and working harder on them.
Nice. And would you say that has there been anybody that has influenced your values?
Oh my God, that's such a great question. Oh, like alive people, like people currently in my life, or like
Yeah, sure. Like maybe you've had some mentors as you've been learning more about the industry and in the internships and through your university course, and then all the way through to the beginning of your life with your parents, or a mixture, that type of thing.
yeah, it's a great question, and it's hard for me to answer because I've always valued independence so strongly, you know. Like I always wanted to prove to everybody that I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I can do this and I can do it on my own, and I don't need any help. And that being said, you know, everybody needs help, you know, regardless of how independent and strong you are. Or if you don't, you know, everybody can benefit from it, and it's not shameful to take it. I think currently one of the strongly influential people in my life is my really close friend and business owner, Chase Knoll. And I think we really have seen eye to eye on both. We're both very ambitious people and in a little bit different ways. And as a result, we have both value like discipline and hard work so much, but not in a way that makes us jaded, or, you know, at least neither of us want to be jaded. And I'm always inspired by his level of kindness and gentleness and compassion that couples his discipline and hard work, you know, and introspection, you know, because when people think discipline, they think like, I gotta work hard and be no fun. But he is incredibly kind and compassionate, as well as being very disciplined, and that's always been really inspiring to me.
Awesome, man. And then so the tea fact for the episode is more often than not, tea producing plantations are between 3,000 and 7,000 feet above sea level. And that comes from teahow.com. So always time for some tea facts on the Tea with Mike show.
Wonderful. I love to learn about that. I love tea, by the way.
I know you like coffee, but I will forgive you because you are an interesting human being person with good stories. All right, so as well as balancing academics, which is already quite impressive with the two master's degrees and the internships to develop your craft and work, and maybe nerding it out playing chess still with your dad. Do you still play chess with your dad?
You know, it's been quite a while since I've played chess with my dad, because he now lives in Portland, Oregon. When I do visit him, we do play chess or cards, one or the other.
Fantastic. And then it's very understanding that you founded your own business to add to all these different components of your life, and that business is called Humble Shaped. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Humble Shaped?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, so I can never, you know, do just one thing. I always want to do everything. So I had started a lot of businesses before Humble Shapes, and a lot of them didn't work out so great, you know, kind of the trading wheels. You try and fail a couple times. But with Humble Shapes, I originally came across the concept when I was doing keyword analytics. I stumbled across some keyword analytics software where basically you got to see how many times people searched for different keywords. And you can kind of see like social trends that way, like, oh, these keywords are really, really hot. You know, people are searching for this a lot. And this is a very kind of sophisticated way that a lot of people nowadays do a lot of market research this way. And I kind of didn't know that it was a well documented thing, and I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of keywords for this. So, you know, I started scheming. You could probably make make a product that fit these keywords, or, oh, you can see a lot of people are searching for this, this is related to this,
Right.
that, whatever this is. We could make products like this. But I also, didn't want to just mass produce a lot of junk, because so many people make money just mass producing junk. And, I had this idea where if I'm going to be a business, I want to hold myself accountable to be, like an ethical business in my mind. And part of that meant, trying to have a good low carbon footprint or a no carbon footprint, or produce sustainable products, this, that, and the other. And that led me to do research in sustainability keywords. And that eventually drew me to the products that we decided to make and manufacture, which are the beeswax wraps. And so Humble Shapes manufactures a bunch of beeswax wraps, and they're aimed to kind of be a sustainable alternative to like saran wrap or aluminum foil. They have beeswax in them, so they create an airtight seal, and you can keep food fresh in them, and they're reusable and biodegradable and all this stuff. And so built Humble Shapes to actually decided to put them in an Amazon warehouse and use Amazon fulfillment to sell the beeswax wraps. And that was the birth of Humble Shapes.
And how,
story, I guess.
Nice. And how is Humble Shapes going so far?
Humble Shapes is doing all right now. I've been, like you said, I've been so busy. Fortunately, I have a lot of the fulfillment automated working with Amazon, and so that is quite nice. I feel like I could be working more on Humble Shapes if I wasn't in doing so much in computer science, but I'm a lot more interested in computer science. So right now, Humble Shapes is kind of, on the back burner, and it's automated for the most part.
Right.
It's doing its own thing.
Extra, yeah.
Yeah, and so now I'm trying to build a tech company, or scheming about a tech company, as well as working on my thesis and stuff in my school.
No, cool. And so how did you come up with the concept to create the product of the beeswax food wrap?
Yeah, so there's a lot of keyword search for beeswax products and food wrap products, and it's not my original product. I wasn't the first one to make these beeswax wraps, but there was very few of them on the market when I was doing their keyword searches, and there was a lot of search volume. And I went on Amazon and I did some analytics, and there was a high demand and a low supply, and there was not very many of these products. And so I was like, you know what?
Let's go.
This is a hot spot. I'm gonna try and make a really good product and put it here.
Awesome. And then so how long did it take you to like manufacture these products? Because lots of people have lots of ideas. A gazillion people thought of Uber before Uber. You get my point. You're very intelligent. So
Yeah.
How long did it take to go from the idea on paper to live?
Yeah. So I think it was 2019 May when I started scheming, and we got the products for sale on Amazon in October. So a couple months, and it was challenging months. I learned a lot. I did a lot of things I never did before. I ordered lots of samples from contract manufacturers and tried to make good samples, tried to design packaging, failed, had paid somebody to help me with graphic design for my packaging. And then eventually, I found a manufacturer I really liked. I was like, yeah, these are good. Let's do these, after making some adjustments. And I sent all my money to the contract manufacturer, and I held my breath, and I was like, hope this works. And fortunately, I'd done enough due diligence that yes, we had manufactured the products and got them to the warehouses they needed to be. And I had to do a little bit of SEO and listing optimization, and then we lifted off.
Awesome. And then obviously through this challenging process of like for a lot of stuff that you didn't know but you had to learn on the fly, there must have been moments where you were like, I'm busy enough already with the computer science and that lane, like why am I doing this? So what is it? What is it? Yeah, why did you not give up? Why did you keep like going?
Yeah, another good question. Fortunately, I was able to balance things because this was the summer right before I finished my undergraduate. So I was still in my undergraduate studies. I didn't have as many computer science obligations. Undergraduate degrees are not as difficult as master's programs, so the coursework was a little bit more manageable. And then it was also over the summer. So I was able to devote most of my time towards building Humble Shapes. That being said, it was still very hard. And there were times where I was like, I don't know, should I even be doing this? This could be crazy. You know, is it going to work? If it doesn't work, you know, I'm kind of out of my savings, you know,
Yeah.
what do I do? And there has definitely been times where I have been incredibly financially stressed because of my decision to build Humble Shapes. And you know, it takes a lot of money. And to this day, we're doing well, and projected to, you know, be positive. But it takes a lot of startup capital, and it takes a lot of time to slowly turn it over to, you know, be sustainable for itself, and then ideally profitable for you. And I think it was exciting to learn new things and do new things. And you know, everybody is like, you're crazy, you're just gonna like send all your money to a manufacturer, like what if they never talk to you again? And I was like, you know, I'm not going to live my life in fear. Like, I want to do a lot of things with my life. And if I'm going to do even half of them, I have to take a lot of risks. And they might not work out, but that's okay, because it's a really valuable experience in itself, you know? Like, in all honesty, if I would have sent all of if I would have failed miserably, it would have still been an incredibly valuable experience. And I would have hoped that I did it anyway, you know?
Yes.
You know, it like reminds me of that, like, I think it was that Thomas Edison quote about, I learned like 200 or something ways not to make a light bulb. I didn't fail, you know? And it's like, you have to do things to learn, and you got to take risks, you know? Scary, but it's also really exciting and invigorating. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and it really knocks you on your knees and takes a while to, you know, get back on your feet. But I think it's worth it, personally.
Awesome. And so why the name Humble Shaped?
Another great question. Yeah, so I'd actually originally filed it under the company name Islands. And I was originally, it's a very hard thing to choose your business name. And so I wanted a name to be elegant, and I wanted a name to be humble, because humility is really important to me. And I wanted it to also, you know, be broad enough that if I wanted to build other products, I could also do other products. Yeah, I didn't want to put myself in a box. And it took me a while to come to Humble Shapes. And I was brainstorming, I was writing down all these keywords and ideas, and I was like, is this word nice? Is this a good brand name? But I came up with Humble Shapes one day, and I was like, this is perfect. This is a really nice name, and I was really glad I did. I like the name a lot.
Nice, man. And then, so what makes your product different from other similar products on the market?
Oh yeah, totally. So a lot of other products, so I did market research when I was trying to figure this out. I looked at all of my competitors and I looked at their negative reviews and I was like, what is bad about this?
You
How
did
can I
your
make it
SWOT
better?
analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I saw customers complaining about the degree of stick that the wraps had, whether it was too sticky and the beeswax residue got stuck on their hands and everywhere, or it wasn't sticky enough. And I was like, okay, you know what I have to do? I have to find the perfect balance of functionality and convenience here. And so that's what I optimized in my products to make them differentiate. And then, of course, you have competitive pricing, this, that, and the other. Do our best to, be one of the more affordable options.
Awesome. And then obviously, as you know, and lots of people know, you can have all these great design skills. You can get it to market, but another big component of the journey and the process is telling people about this fantastic product. So talk to us a little bit about how I know you said it was a little bit automated, but how do you promote the product?
Yeah, great question. Marketing is incredibly challenging and incredibly exciting and can be a lot of fun and can be very frustrating. And so a lot of the ways that I market Humble Shapes, well, do you want to know about the ways that I tried and didn't work, or about the ways that I tried and did work?
That is the piece that people will get the most from. Go ahead, man. Yeah.
So I was like, I knew I had to have a website and I knew I had to have social media accounts for Humble Shape, because I was like, this is the 20th century. Everything's online. There are so many people doing well on social media marketing. I have to do this. This is really important. Now, I originally tried to do every single social media for Humble Shapes, and it was way too much.
Okay.
And a lot of it wasn't super relevant, like my demographic for Humble Shapes, it's kind of like stay-at-home moms, it's not a business to business, it's business to consumer.
Okay.
And I was on LinkedIn, and I was like, this is not the right place for Humble Shapes to be. And I tried and decided, same with Twitter. Twitter was, not, I'm sure there's potential for Humble Shapes to do well on Twitter, but it was not the primary places that I wanted to be to reach my audience. And so I tried LinkedIn, failed, tried Twitter, failed. Instagram was okay. I liked Instagram. It wasn't the hottest place, but there was value to be marketing on Instagram. And same with Facebook, same company. But the place I found to work the best for Humble Shapes was marketing on Pinterest. So I found that was where my demographic was. People like to cook on Pinterest, very artsy. There's a lot of like stay-at-home moms on Pinterest. A lot of people are about sustainability on Pinterest, and so Pinterest has been the primary place that I found to do social media marketing with Humble Shapes. You also have to do these things called pay-per-click ads for Amazon products, where you have to do Amazon advertising. And so I had to do, fortunately, it was more keyword optimization. What keywords do I want to advertise for? And I had already done that in the past. So those are kind of the two avenues of marketing that I had done for Humble Shapes. And then I did a little bit of PR. I did like a radio show and another podcast and a newspaper interview and stuff. But, it's hard to measure how well those do without like doing like coupon codes. And I'm very analytical, I always like to measure things.
Nice.
Be able to.
Nice. And then, so let's see. What plans do you have for continuing the theme of sustainability in future products that you may eventually launch?
It's a great question. Products launched under Humble Shapes or products launched under new ventures?
Both. How are you going to keep? How are you going to keep this value? I believe it's a value for you of like ethical and sustainability. How are you going to keep those things at the forefront of future things that you may or may not design?
Yeah, totally. Great question. So if I do build more products under Humble Shapes, they will all be sustainable products. And depending on where what my future holds, I may also, work to build my own fulfillment center, for Humble Shapes that could be more sustainable than Amazon fulfillment. But that requires a lot of financial resources. So a lot of that depends on how things go for me.
I look forward to seeing you on Shark Tank in a few years. I know that person.
Yeah.
I think you kill it on Shark Tank if that was a
I might enjoy being on Shark Tank. I might not. I'm very excited to be building software and writing code because there's a lot of valuable things that you can do with computer science. How you keep those sorts of software companies sustainable, is fairly, they're not very not sustainable. The only resources that they need are electricity, so as long as you're getting your electricity in a somewhat ethical manner, which a lot of the time isn't necessarily up to you, like I'm sure you pay your electrical bill and it comes from the city or something, or it does for me. And the way that the city produces their electricity is not necessarily up to their consumers. Your city could have wonderful alternative energy production, or it could have terribly not very ethical energy production, and so it really depends on the type of industry you're in. And there's so many ways to be sustainable as an individual person. It's often overwhelming, and a lot of people feel like pretty bombarded or pressured to do everything. And my goal is not to be able to do everything, but it's to do the best that I can and inspire other people to also do the best that they can.
Fantastic. And so obviously you've already achieved a lot and you've got all these exciting things on the go, some really big things that you're hoping come to fruition over time, like all good things. So how do you take care of your mental health? Because you probably spend a lot of time on looking at the screen.
Yeah, that's an incredibly valuable question. I think mental health is far under discussed and far under complicated. And I think that your perspective on your life is the most valuable thing that you have. It's attached to your identity, and if you're struggling with your mental health, it can be the end of all of that. And the way that I deal with that is I believe that you can assign whatever value you want to your life. Like a computer scientist values computer science, or if they don't, they're a very unhappy computer scientist. You have this wonderful podcast and the show you're working on that I'm sure aligns a lot with your values and is something that you're passionate about. And it may seem like it's out of our control originally, like, oh, I like this. Why do I like this? I don't know. It's just who I am. But I feel like it is within our control. And it just takes discipline to enjoy things. You have to learn how to enjoy things. Like originally, when I first started going to the gym, where I was not super excited. I was like, this is very hard.
Gym literally a few weeks ago. So yeah, I can relate to what you're probably about to say.
Yeah. And in the beginning, it can be really challenging and really hard. And there's a lot of people in the gym who've been going for years who are just killing it and can be demoralizing. But the thing is you have to be persistent. And over time, you enjoy the process of getting stronger more, you know. And going to the gym particularly is an outlier of an example because there is lots of science saying how good exercise is for the mental health and for your ability to feel good and healthy in your mind and in your brain, not just in your body. And that was the primary reasons that got me into exercising was, studying how it has so many constructive effects on the brain. But, the point I'm making is that everybody's different, and, not the same thing is going to work for everybody, but everybody needs some sort of value in their life. And, for me, it's my goals and ambitions. Like, I would almost argue that working is a human need, and not just at a job, but towards your goals, like you have to work towards something. You have to give yourself purpose. And the harder it is, one would say the better, like you want to choose intangible things to give purpose to your life. Like an example of a bad thing to give purpose is to, like, make $1 million. And the reason that's bad is because once you do that, you're gonna face a midlife crisis. Your whole life has been based off of this metric, this tangible metric that you've made, and now you have no idea what to do, and you're directionless, and that's a really unhappy place to be. And your happiness has to come from the process, not the destination, I think. I'm a little all over the place because I'm so excited about the topic, but hopefully my tangent comes across.
No, for sure, definitely, man. Then I was going to transition into, because you mentioned values. So, so I want to know from you, why do you value humility so much?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it comes down to thinking about it. Your like sense of ego, your sense of self. And there's this saying that I grew up with when I was young that said all the suffering in the world comes from thinking of yourself, and all the good in the world comes from thinking of other people. And humility is really valuable to me because it's really easy. I describe my ego as like a little rascal that I have to have constant wrestling matches with all day. The ego wants you to toot your horn and be like everybody to see, and this is amazing, this is great. But I think that it's a lot more valuable to keep your head down, because as soon as you're up on your high horse, you can further fall down, like you're more ignorant, you're not as self-aware, you're less grounded. And I also think it's a more admirable trait, if I meet somebody who's just talking about how great they are, it's what I think immediately in my mind is like, this person's not that great. But if I meet somebody who doesn't say a single word and I find out later that they have accomplished these monumental things, I'm like, wow, I really respect that person. One, for accomplishing all these things, but even more so that they keep their head down about it, So that's the type of person I want to be one day.
And awesome. And then I think everybody wants that. And how do you think you're doing so far?
I think I started out, terribly because, I was so excited to meet so many people as growing up without any people. and that's okay. It's a learning experience. You know, I don't think I think I had got a lot of value from, you know, learning from so many different people, but different things come into your perspective at different times in your life. And just as now I value discipline more, humility is a big part of being disciplined, or you have to be disciplined in being humble, because it's your own mind will trick you all the time. Your own mind will trick you. It's like not eating sweets, you know. Your own mind will trick you all the time. It's like, I want to eat the cake. I want other people to think I'm great, you know. But you have to exercise that discipline, you know, and eat just like in eating healthy, but also practicing humility. And,
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, did you have something else to add? Did I cut you up?
No. I said it's a process, you know. Nobody's perfectly humble at any point in their life. They just practice humility and maybe get better at practicing it. But your own mind will always be there to play tricks on you, no matter. It's not something that you achieve one day and are like, I'm perfectly humble. First of all, humble. Ironic, right?
Right, very ironic. And then to kind of close out our conversation today, what is one piece of advice that you'd give to someone that's interested in starting their own brand, whether that's in computer science, marketing, beeswax, snail slime, etc., etc.?
I would tell them that it's really hard, and if it's really valuable thing to do, not because of your chances of succeeding, but because of your chances of learning. And I would encourage them to keep trying, no matter how many times they didn't work out, you know, and to learn from all of their mistakes. And I think building a business or a brand is phenomenal character development. You know, phenomenal, you know, figuring out what your values are and like developing a well-rounded person. Because in building a business, you will be so incredibly humbled. You will feel at times so defeated, and at other times on top of the world. And you will learn more about yourself than anything else. I think that's what I have to say to people who would want a brand or a business.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It was such a pleasure to chat with you. I'm glad we got to connect at some point, and I wish the best for you and excited to see where you take the show.
Also, I'm also excited to see where you go next. And off the record from this conversation, I'll definitely be hitting up your brain box about SEO and keywords, something that I'm currently struggling with. So,
yeah, if I can answer any questions, I'd be super happy to do so.
Awesome. Well, they'll be very rookie-based questions, but we can talk about that later. So, guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Tea with Mike show. If you enjoyed this conversation with Waylon, please let us know. Please comment in the comment box below this video. Share it with your friends, and also watch all the other great stories on the place that you watch this one at teawithmike.com. One last time, thank you, Waylon.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
It's the Tea with Mike show.